Ladies and guys, I am Lorraine Brock. I'm a professional organizer that owns a company called Get Organized. We actually service all the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've been in business almost 14 years. And we've started out basically organizing homes, and then that has expanded over the years to include packing, unpacking, senior downsizing, of a little bit what we're going to be talking about today, Christmas decorating, fall decorating, IT organization, and a plethora of other services that we offer. So Katie asked me to do a series of 3 different topics. This is the third and final one that I am scheduled to do. And I just love organization. I absolutely love everything. I think if you look at your home, your business or your work or your life, there is something in all of those areas that you can get better organized in. Organization just feeds into everything. Specifically today, we're going to be talking about how do you help mom and dad downsize. And I know that some of our viewers may be seniors themselves, going into the stage of downsizing, and they're curious of what that entails, whether you have kids or not. Others may be like, I know it's coming from mom and dad, tell me what I need to be ready for. So even though I might speak one way or the other, know that any of those scenarios going on in your life will totally be something that we will cover during our time together this evening, because my job is to make you think about things you're going to have to make decisions on, and some of those ways you can make those decision process a little bit easier, especially when you're working with loved ones. I will take, like Katie said, I will take some questions at the end for your specific concerns or anything I didn't make very clear. So just make sure you hold on to those till the end. I'm going to be sharing a PowerPoint with you here in just a few minutes, and we're going to get talk about that. If you will, go ahead and get a notepad and a pencil or pen and be able to take some notes, or get your app phone out and take some notes, because what I'm about to tell you, you're going to want to put into practice. And this is really where you start with anyone that needs to downsize. So make sure you get that, and then let me get going here, and I'm going to share my PowerPoint here. Okay, and we are going there we go. There it's up. Okay, so let's talk about helping to downsize mom and dad. And again, like I said, this can go for really, if you're looking at really decluttering, downsizing after being in your home, or again, the children, looking at mom and dad being in the home for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We're going to talk about that, because a declutter in a home you've been in, 5 or 10 years, there are some similarities that you would do in both homes to actually declutter. But there's a lot more transition, a lot more emotion that's in it when you're looking at someone who's an empty nester, their children are grown, and there's just a lot of dynamics there. I'm 50 years old, and my father is still in the same house that I was, I guess you'd say, born in, or, I was when I was an infant. My mother passed away about 16 years ago, and my dad's still in the same house. He's still independent, but we're getting to the point that we're making some decisions about future, who's going to get what. We're looking at memorabilia and keepsakes of history of his, and it's just a season of life that, if I can say one thing I want you to take away as far as the emotional side of dealing with older adults and downsizing, particularly your parents, your in-laws, is to them in their season of life, when they get to this stage, most seniors are thinking downsizing has everything to do with loss. They're losing their home. They're losing their stuff. They're losing their ability to maybe be mobile. They're losing their ability to be in the neighborhood or the friends that they have. I mean, everything in many cases is about loss to them. They look at it through that view versus this is a new adventure. It's going to free me up. I'm going to be able to experience things that I've not been able to experience. I'm going to be able to enjoy my things that's been packed away, I've not even seen, that I've been keeping for 50 years, that I can actually bring it out and enjoy it now. There's two different ways of looking at this, and often see at it as a lot of loss. And you, as the individual, hopefully that's going to help them do this, needs to have compassion and patience. And even myself, you have to just sort of grin and bear it sometimes. Listen to the stories that come with the things, but there is a family dynamic that sometimes they can't work together. The adult children and the siblings cannot work with their parents. And this is something that's a real problem. And obviously you have professional companies that will do that. But for you guys, I want to empower you to be able to help make these decisions. So let's move on to the slideshow here. So I want to bring on a couple things here that I want to look at some statistics here. So on the top right here, we have time for a garage sale. So 47% of Americans with a garage admit there have been times when they couldn't even park their car in it because there wasn't enough room. Parents have even bigger issues with this, admit that 60% they've been unable to park their car in the garage before. Now, let me just say, the garage is often a place that everything ends up going that you don't want in the house. And I always say to a lot of our clients that I'm talking to about working with them on their garage, I'll say, what is your second biggest investment? And really your second biggest investment is your automobile for most people. Most people that struggle with many years of clutter have their second biggest investment setting outside in the driveway. Now, not everybody, but a large majority. They are unable to protect that investment because they're holding on to the garage sale stuff in their garage. And they want to sell it. It's valuable. We're going to talk about that. And this ends up being a problem because the sun, the rain, the hailstorms, they all devalue that vehicle. So clutter does cost you something. In this case, it can devalue a vehicle if it's setting out in the driveway while your clutter is really safely inside the garage, all protected. You can rebuy things that you know you already own because you can't find what you're looking for, thus you're spending more money. Again, clutter costs you something. So I wanted to give this little statistic about the garage, about garage selling, and make sure you're aware of sort of where we are here in America. So the second one here to the left says Americans have many reasons for keeping items in their home that they just don't use. And here are the top 4 reasons, and we're going to talk a little bit about them. So number 1 is I might need it. The most common reason people decide that they want to keep something. I have and this is important, so write this down. There are a few reasons that I would keep something. And I walk through these steps normally with the client to make sure that they process this thinking. So the first thing is if you might need it, when are you going to need it? Like, are you going to use it? If you are, can you give me a time, a situation, a season where you actually see yourself using this? One of our recent clients has like 183 pairs of shoes. She loves shoes. She's maxing out on all of her articles of clothing. Everything you could put in a closet, she's maxed out the space and she's into other spaces. And it's a time now to downsize. these shoes are often out of style. They're often, scuffed. Some of them, many of them have issues with the soles or something's fallen off and she's got them put aside to fix them, but they've been there for 4 or 5 years and they've never been fixed. So you have to really walk through, okay, you are mom, you are dad, you're the owner of your things and you get to make the final decision. I'm not making it for you, but allow me to walk through this with you and make sure you understand why you're keeping it, because sometimes they just want to say, oh, I might use it, and really that's just something they say to get you to move on and not bother them about it. So keep in mind, are you going to use it? And if so, when? Because that's very important for them to identify that. Okay. Now, the next thing here is second is sentimental reasons. So one of my other questions that I ask the client is, as if you're not going to use it, can't identify that, are your kids gonna want it? Now, being that it's sentimental, it might be things like keepsakes and memorabilia, things like war medals and war records, or a family heirloom of some sort that is really, really valuable. It could be your great grandmother's wedding ring. I mean, we're talking about things here, that would be more valuable. They're really keepsakes, though there can be things that are not so valuable that definitely have sentimental value. And so you're going to say, okay, well, if you're not going to use it, are your kids going to want it? And that's a big thing, because it stings. And we're going to talk more about that. But do they really want the things? They have to ask their kids. They have to come to the realization of maybe that's a no. And what does that look like and feel like when they're told that? So sentimental reasons, are we passing this down? Now, the other third thing is, if it's a sentimental reason, if you're keeping it because of a sentimental reason, then why aren't we just displaying it? If you're not going to use it, well, maybe we can display it, right? But if you're not using it and you're not displaying it and your kids are not going to want it, you're walking through this process with them, right? It helps reason. So the third thing here is they want to sell it. They want to get some money out of things because they paid good money for it 20, 30 years ago. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. So that's another reason we're going to talk about that. And then 22, I feel guilty. I think we've probably all felt this a little bit. I guess a few years ago, I received some moose antlers. It was a business card holder. I should have kept it just for a series like this. And I was like, oh, thank you. What am I going to do with it? I mean, seriously, I love the outdoors. I think probably what happened is that person re-gifted it to me. And guess what? I blessed somebody else by re-gifting it to them. So my whole point in that is the guilt in that. I believe when people start moving on and moving to, downsizing and get rid of things, I think there's an understanding that people realize you just can't keep everything. And you, as the adult child, for those that are, in this position tonight, give your parents the permission to be able to part with some of the gifts that maybe you have given them over the years that you're like, oh, mom and dad's going to get rid of that? Really? Because if everyone said that, we're going to have problems. So we're going to have to pick the very best stuff, the things that they're going to really use and really that's going to be of value to them. And it can't be everything. So give them permission to use it, and bless somebody else in regifting things, or finding a donation place that really means something to them. Military, veterans, shelters. I mean, I can't tell you, often seniors will want to help others if someone else is going to value their stuff like they value it. So keep that in mind. All right, let's go to the next slide. Downsizing and moving statistics. And this is really important. So I want you to get to know sort of where people are. About 20% of the households today are a multi-generational home, and that's up from 12% in just 1980. Geographically, close adult children are often involved in the downsizing and moving process and decision making. So if you're close, like my dad is about 15, 20 minutes away, my other brothers are hours away. I'm the main one, and I am the one that's in charge of the decision making, and everyone recognizes that, and that works great. And that is most common. Sometimes families involved in downsizing live far away, like my brothers live far away, and they are unable to actually be really a part of that downsizing. They can take off a little bit, a week or day or here, but really they just are not equipped based on their, their life, their job, their financial burdens, their dependents, that they can't always come down. And I know that burden falls on the children that's closer most often. It's just the way it is. And I believe if you as an adult child can look at it this way, and I am looking at it this way, not only do I love my dad and I want to take good care of him, if he'll let me sometimes, right? But me serving my father is such an example to my three sons that range from 23 to 27 of hopefully one day how they will serve me and my husband, their dad. And I think that speaks volumes. So why it might be a burden, absolutely it is. And we'll get into some things about that too, on the caregivers and the decision makers. But you have to look at the positive and look at the value that it's creating behind the scenes for one day when you might need that extra help. All right, so often people making transitions have not moved in like 30, 40, 50 years. This is really common with a generation that is becoming or is seniors right now. Very, very much so. And so there's a lot of layers, a lot of things, a lot of decision making to be done. And they need to downsize very considerably. Often a move. So just because you downsize, I want to make this clear, just because you downsize doesn't mean you're moving. Now, normally that does mean that, but people can downsize at any age, and they can downsize the amount of clutter they have. But normally when you're talking about adult children working on downsizing their parents, it will include a move at some point. You might be decluttering and going through things 2 or 3 years in advance, but you know it's coming. You know that move's going to happen. You know that downsizing it's inevitable, and you're starting to work through that. But services, well, let me put it this way. Seniors don't often just want to give up their home. Remember, I told you it's all about loss. So what you have is, in this statistic, is about 51% of services like our companies are often contacted with 2 to 4 weeks advance notice because it's become a crisis. Mom or dad has fallen. Mom or dad has gotten ill. They're unstable. They're not taking their medication correctly. And so a lot of seniors will stay in their home, and I know they want to, until that point that it becomes such a crisis. And if they've never downsized, if they haven't gone through and made decisions about things, and if that crisis happens before those decisions are made, the downsizing is done, the senior loses the ability to make decisions and be in control. So for those seniors themselves that are watching tonight, it is something you are going to have to think about. Doesn't mean you have to get out of your home necessarily, but it does mean that if you don't make the decision while you can, somebody else will make it for you, and you're not going to be able to save things. You're not going to be able to be involved with it, pass things to certain people, explain the history of things. You have waited too long for that. So the adult children, encourage your parents to do that a little at a time. Maybe give them a project each week to do, and cleaning out photos, labeling photos, going through junk drawers, game closets. My dad had like a well, not brand new, but it was a excellent condition original Monopoly game. I mean, like really, when we went, that was a score. Like, Dad, that is awesome. And somebody else going through it that's in a hurry, a sibling, or we're moving, we're like, oh, it's a Monopoly game, garage sell it, and you miss those treasures when you're really having to be in a crisis like this, and you have 2 to 4 weeks because you are doing your life and you're trying to do their life in a very short period of time. All right, so first steps into downsizing. I'm watching my time here, make sure I stay on track. Okay, first steps into downsizing. Family dynamic. Expect that your family may not want your possessions. And as far as the adult children, this is going to be hard because you're going to feel them laying on the guilt often. And my father, and I'm using him as an example because that's where I'm at in my life. My father is so good about, if you want it, you can have it. If you don't, you're fine. I mean, he leaves no guilt on you at all. None of my parents ever did that. But there are quite a few parents that have such an emotional attachment to things, and they want that history, that heritage to pass on, that they are really wounded when their adult children doesn't want something. It really stings. And so again, have grace, realize it's all about loss to them. And as far as the adults go, the senior adults, it's okay that your children does not want everything. I'm sure you did not want everything that you inherited, if you did, from your family or your in-laws. And often we get calls from people that have inherited things and they don't even know what to do with it. It's all in their back bedroom, in their garage, and it's there for years, taking up wonderful space in their home, and they're frustrated and they don't know what to do. Now they're left to deal with it. So this is going to be an issue. And it's not really anything you can do but give people permission to say no, and that you not to get your feelings hurt or vice versa. All right, choosing what to keep. If you are doing a downsize and you are thinking you want to keep some things maybe in a storage unit because you might want to get it, and we've had this scenario many times, the storage unit has got to be organized in a way that that individual, as they get less mobile, or the adult children, can easily find things, one or the other. Containers need to possibly have more than just a label on it. They could have an inventory list. So when you're packing these boxes, get some kind of, notepad and write down or take a picture of the box, and you can save and create a little storage inventory on the cloud or in a Word document, something on the computer, that you can say, well, box number 1, and you would label box number 1 where you'd be able to see it, would have these picture content in them. Or you could actually type the contents, or you can be very generic and say, these are sewing notions, sewing items, or you can get very specific and say, the sewing machine is in here with all her threads, or his thread, whatever. So it's really good if you're going to have things in storage. Now, if you are wanting to keep things in storage because you want to sell them, or you think your kids are going to want them, think about the amount of money you would spend. And be honest here, this year it says a 10 by 10 storage unit will average $100 a month. That's actually probably very low. It's probably by now like $150 a month, I would imagine, especially after you've been in it a few months and the rate goes up. You get that introductory offer at first. That's a large investment. Let's just take the $100 there. It's $1,200 a year that's in that storage unit of a 10 by 10. And you could probably have rebought what was already in there to some degree, or at least some of the items. Brown is what they call down, and I'm meaning furniture. Brown furniture, wood furniture is not the thing. Now some people still like it, but it is not mainstream popular. And there is just a flurry of so many of those types of furniture on the market. And I say market, meaning like consignment, resale shops, Salvation Army, that often places do not even want them. They have so many. So you have these baby boomers that are downsizing. There are influx of a lot of furniture that is wood, brown furniture. You have people that have just recently, since this COVID thing has been happening, there has been a lot of people that has taken that extra time at home and downsized. So you're adding to the baby boomers downsizing with all the decluttering that everybody's doing or has been doing. And then you got this flex. So some of the places like Salvation Army and others, they won't take everything anymore. They don't know what to do with it all. It's like nobody wants it as much. So look at these things and see if it's really worth keeping. What I will say is, if you do have a storage unit, have what we call an expiration date. And that could be on the unit and everything in it, or it could be on individual boxes inside the storage unit. An expiration date, and we do this little game thing, mental thing with our clients, even if you put it in the garage and you want to put it out there. Set an expiration date on something. If you haven't taken care of it by that expiration date, and you can write the expiration date on the box, very visible. You can put it on your calendar to actually know when that expiration date happens, that you've got to get rid of it. You've got to do something, give it away, donate it, whatever that looks like. But give yourself an expiration date. That's an option, because otherwise it's going to sit there and sit there. And I tell my clients, there is a difference between planning to do something versus scheduling it. I don't say that again. There is a difference between planning to do something versus scheduling. And often we plan to use that, to sell that, to whatever with that. And we go on, and time goes on, and it never even got scheduled. It was like, what are you going to just do? Automatically wake up one morning and let's take care of it. Maybe, maybe not. Odds are no. So those are some things about a storage unit. And remember, storage units are priced differently based on the location that they are in each city. Some of the nicer areas of the city will be cheaper versus the nicer areas of the city will be more expensive. That is just how storage units go. All right, personal papers. Organize so your family knows what you know. Now, this is speaking directly here to the senior themselves, but if you're the adult child, realize that there may come a time when you have to take over the papers. And having a system in place that actually allows you to find what you're looking for is incredible. And I should have brought one of my systems with me tonight, but we have a couple systems. One is called Easy File Solutions. One is called the Filing Solutions. And they're basically color-coded systems for home and personal papers. It's really cool, because what happens is you have these categories, and these books that come with these systems tells you where to file them and where to find them. So it does reverse. If you're looking for like family tree information, well, maybe you looked under, you thought, I'll look under genealogy. That's where it's going to be. Well, your parents filed it under family tree. Well, these booklets will take you to the same file. It's really a cool system. We have a couple of them. But you can look online for paper systems and see what you can find that are color coded, but you want everybody to stay on the same page. In other words, you don't want to call it auto and they call it vehicle, and then or they call it the loan or truck or the Subaru. I don't know. Everyone names their things differently. So keeping with a system that the names all stay consistent, with that has a key in it that you can cross-reference, is incredible. But if there are papers that need to be organized, that needs to be where you take them over, start making sure you understand their system or set up one, because that will be very important for you. Now here, I'm going to show y'all something. I have one of these for my father. You can get these on Amazon. They're made by Smead, S-M-E-A-D, and it's called a Viewables. Now, mine's just a little bit messy here, but this is my personal one. So this is basically a folder here that has all kinds of pockets in it. And I have all kinds of stuff in each of these pockets. There's 2 of every color, but the color's not together. For example, the first one here is yellow, and then there's a yellow one back here in the back. And there's a front clear viewfinder here. So you can see I can slip in something that I need to see really, really quickly. And then you can organize information in here based on the color category, and you can write on here what this is down here, and it just is so great. It's like a little flap here, and I keep this with me for my father. One of his has medical, it has business cards in it for people, and I have other organizational systems, but if I'm going on the go, medicines that he's on and prescriptions, this is what I'm actually using. So it's a great tool to help organize papers for your parents when they're downsizing on the go, or if you're taking them over a little bit, but it's not your filing system. Your filing system is more like in a file box or a file cabinet. That system right there would not hold all the papers, but it would be helpful if you're doing like portable stuff. All right, so the next thing, leaving a legacy. And I want this to be something that the seniors think about, that maybe there's some nuances, things that maybe nobody really knows, that either A, about their property, B, about investments, family history, heirlooms, wherever, that it would be nice if they would start jotting down notes or making a Word document of things that they have that would be of importance to know. An example, my father, when he was in the Korean War, bought my mother a very wonderful set of silverware. And it's the nice stuff. We use it actually for parties. We use it actually for Christmas. And we don't even have to be dressing up for it or a fancy thing. We put it in little cup holders, and we may have paper plates, but we use the nice silverware, and it really adds a great thing. And I wanted it. When my mother passed away, I opened it and found it, and she had left a note inside there telling me all the history about it, who gave it to her. And I was like, this is so cool. And I just encourage you to do that. I do that. I've been doing that for like 10 years with things that I know my kids would never care about me telling them now, but I leave notes about things inside of things, or I have a spreadsheet too that they know to look at. And I'm just telling you, it's a really good way to pass on that little bit of legacy and write down instructions and details about things, combinations, filter sizes. I mean, dump all that's in here onto something that helps other people help you. All right. Let's go here to the next one. All right, so I'm going to tell you a system to actually start doing when you're decluttering. Like, you have this whole house that's 30, 40 years, whatever, of clutter. They haven't downsized in many, many years. Where do you start? Like, physically, where? So pick a room, and I would probably pick the least cluttered room to start with, because if you do that, you'll get a system down and you'll see progress really quickly, or quicker, and then you'll be motivated to move on. So we use, in my company, we use a system with all of our clients to go in and declutter, and we use the acronym SPACE, S-P-A-C-E. Now, what I don't want the senior or the children to do is this, and I'm going to sort of act a little weird, funny here, but it's true. You're like, oh, this is nice. I haven't seen this in like really such a long period of time. I might need to call Uncle Bob about this. I think this might be him years ago. Oh, and look at this right here. This was my dad's first cell phone when they had the first cell phone. Oh, and look, there's a little engraving on it. And I don't want you to have a reunion with your clutter. Just say no, right? That will take like forever. So purpose in your heart, purpose in your mind, when you start this downsizing, this decluttering process, that there will be time to reminisce. There will be time to look at those things and recall memory, but this is not the time. The very first thing you need to do is sort. Just get about a dozen size boxes that you could carry when they're full of things, maybe a laundry basket size. Obviously, if they're, really light things, it could be a little bit bigger, but you want to sort like items together. So I don't want you to go into a room and say, what do we want to get rid of? Because that's the wrong way to do it. And you don't want to have a reunion with it either. So all I want you to do is go in there and sort. So like if I find old electronics, like cell phones and cords and chargers and adapters, you're going to put these items in an electronic box, and you're going to label the box with like a sticky note. Well, then maybe you have a whole bunch of sticky notes and notepads that you're finding everywhere. Make an office supply box. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to make a category. Don't worry about what you're keeping. Don't worry about what you want to donate. Unless it's obvious trash, just sort it. If it's obvious trash, throw it in the trash can. But don't make decisions, because the decision-making process is what really takes so long, and we're not doing it during the first step here, and that is sorting. We want to sort like items together. And again, you're going to have, I say a dozen size boxes. You can have more. But remember, you're going to go through these boxes after you sort. So the next thing is P is purge. Get this. You don't know what to purge until you know what you have. That's the reason we sort first, to see what you have in that category, versus purging and you're like, I thought I had more of those. Where did I put all those? I gave them away already. So you're going to sort first, then you're going to purge. And then we're going to go back to one of those things that I said about when we were looking at those statistics. If you're going to purge, ask yourself this, or you're going to purge, am I going to use it? And if so, when? What season? Where can you imagine yourself having time with all the wonderful things you want to do as a senior to actually do what you want to do with this item that you want to keep? So are you going to use it? If not, are you going to display it? We talked about that, enjoying what's important to you. If you're not going to keep it, you're not going to display it, is your kids going to want it? And if they don't, it's okay. And the fourth thing is it so much of a keepsake or a memorabilia that even if your kids didn't want it, it is a legacy, like the military records, the medals. I would save those by default. And the jewelry of your wedding ring of your mother, great-great-grandmother, and maybe the portraits of your great-great, those types of things, just save them. Don't even play around with that, but make sure it's definitely labeled of what it is. So those are the criteria that you're thinking about when you're purging, and that will help you make some decisions. So A is assign. And I use the example, when I was in kindergarten, we actually had a kindergarten classroom that had zones in it. And they may have it today. I haven't been in kindergarten in 45 years. But we had a block zone where we had a big old area where we played with blocks, big blocks. We had a kitchen area where the girls and even the guys would go over there. We cook, play house and all that. And we had a reading zone and a painting zone. And you had a lot of activities going on in that kindergarten classroom. And so when you've cleared out everything from the room and you've sorted it, and you're taking those boxes and you're setting at the table and you're going through them and purging that one, that's going to Bobby, that's going to donate, then you're left with that box of what you're keeping. And it may be 2 or 3 boxes of electronic cords that you are keeping. Maybe you had 7 to start with, and now you're keeping 3 boxes of them. Okay, that's great. Now you've got to decide where all the stuff that you're keeping, where is it going to live? Where is it going to be assigned a home? And that is obviously the A, assign. Think about this when you assign a space for things that you're keeping. And this goes with any kind of organizing or decluttering. Who's going to use it? Are they tall? Are they short? Does the person going to use it have a neck or back injury? Can they not bend down low? Can they not get on a step stool? But you got to think about that kind of stuff. Then how often is that person going to use it? Is it once a week, once a year, every quarter, approximately? What is it? So who's going to use it and how often they're going to use it will make a big difference about where you're going to assign a home for this. Okay. Then we're going to get to C, and C is containerize. It is actually the funnest part of decluttering and organizing what you're keeping. Containerizing is not necessarily putting things in containers with a lid on it. It can be that, absolutely. But really, containerizing is really anything that helps you organize or maximize the space to hold what you're keeping. An example is a letter tray could be a containerized product here. It holds papers. It's a letter tray, right? You could have a file box. You could have a clothes hanger that's holding the clothes versus the clothes being on the floor or stuffed in drawers. Think of it as a belt organizer, something like that. So think of containerizing as products that help you be better organized, helps you definitely maximize space, and allows things to be more visible so you can really see what you have. It can be labeled appropriately. It's often the funnest part because you can either repurpose what's in your home or you can buy a few things here and there and really get very, very organized. Just keep it up with my time here. So I'm gonna rush through this last, then we'll take some questions. Be ready for your questions. So E is evaluate. So evaluate is really like whatever works today may not work next month, may not work 6 months from now. What if mom and dad have an injury? Whatever worked 6 months ago, now that they have an injury, may not work now. We may have to move some things around, put things in different places, new systems set up. So don't be married to the fact that these types of decisions that you're making are always going to work. Someone could get a part-time job. A child could move in with a senior to care for them, or the senior could move in with the family. Dynamics change. So whatever you had and was organized in some way, it often has to be changed as lifestyle and seasons change. And that could be, dynamically, it could be, a few months, 6 months, a year. Just evaluate that. So this is a really helpful thing to do, is the SPACE acronym. When you're getting ready to downsize, it will make the process much easier and you won't have to have that reunion with your clutter. All right, so warning, keep only what you will use or what your family will want. And I'm serious about that. It's okay to let some of it go and bless somebody else. All right, so let's see what we have. Downsize work and upsize profit. We're gonna go through this real quick. Look at how much you're going to gain from selling things that you want to sell and get money out of it versus the effort you're going to give to sell it. Often, because things you paid money for really good money for, doesn't mean it's worth that kind of money today. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's an antique and it's valuable. Because you paid $1,000 10 years ago doesn't mean it's worth that today or anybody wants it. Look at all the effort that it's going to take to sell that, move it, deliver it, whatever, list it somewhere to sell versus how much you might get for it. State sales, garage sales, and resale shops. Resale shops normally don't want anything over 2 years, that meaning clothing. Furniture wise, you got to take a picture at consignment stores of items before you even take it in to see if they even want it. Garage sales, they're a lot of work. Estate sales take about 30 to 40% of your overall profits. Selling your home, staging it can improve the price of it by about 6%. It's really helpful in either hiring a company or doing it well so you can make more money. Moving companies, if you're looking for moving companies that pack the trash can full of trash, the litter box full of litter. They don't do anything they take a junk drawer and they turn it upside down inside of a package. They are not organizers. They don't organize packing. So, and I say this because if you're downsizing and you're hiring a company, you get the moving company versus a senior move manager. If the adult children need help or the seniors themselves, a senior move managing company can be of a great value. They take care of everything or the parts that you don't want to take care of. And they're exclusively very skilled in working with things that go on in the senior downsizing process. And they do everything and more than a moving company would. Often they will do everything maybe except the actual loading the truck and unloading the truck. So that's a really good resource for you. All right, pictures. We're not going to have time to get into pictures tonight. This may be another topic, another day, but we're just talking about organizing your actual family pictures, and we're not going to get into that because I thought it would be a bonus topic that we could talk about because that's part of downsizing. So let me, last thing before we take questions, and Katie, I'll let you come back on in just a second. If you're trying to downsize into a smaller space, there is a website. Look down here on the bottom right, it says Floor Planner. It's floorplanner.com. And I think the last time I checked, it was $5. And you can go in there and pay $5 and get it to the specs that the floor plan that you're wanting to move into is. And I mean down to the furniture placement and what it's going to look like. And it's so worth it. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's to me, it's pretty user friendly after you play with it for about an hour or two. And it really gives you a good idea of what your space is going to look at. You can add walls, you can have half walls, and it's a really good planning tool for downsizing into a smaller space and what furniture will fit where. And that's just different looks. You can have 3D modeling looks and things like that. And I want to skip this right here and see if we can go there. Different things. All right. All right. Perfect. All right. So Katie, if you'll come back on and let's take some questions. And let me get out of this, stop my sharing. There we go.
Let me pull up our chat box. Again, guys, if you have any questions at all, feel free to post those in the chat box, or you can use the Q&A box below. We did have one come in, and I wanted to address that one. What advice do you have for maybe downsizing a family member who is deceased? Can you talk a little bit more about maybe doing an estate sale or something like along those lines? What would you suggest?
Sure. So we're actually got this thing going on right now. We do not do estate sales. So what you'll want to do is estate sale companies are all different. Some of them have a minimum, like $5,000 they think they can make from your estate sale. Some are 10, some are more. Excuse me. And then you're going to want to see what kind of security they provide. The higher end of estate sale, the more security you will want. And then how much percentage do they take? Now, some take 30 or 40. Some have a fee that they add, like maybe a couple $100 for advertising and supplies. Most of estate sales is a lot of physical labor. It can go on for a week or two, probably a week. They have to clean everything, display it, all that kind of stuff. So outside of that, if someone's deceased, the best thing I would recommend is having a day, if there's a lot of siblings or family involved that's going to want something, having a day that people come in and they can do some shopping. Now, to make it fair, we've had to come up with some ways to do this, giving everyone colored stickers. They each have 5 minutes to go around and pick one item, and you decide who picks one item first by doing drawing. And so let's say Bob gets the color and Bob's going to go first. Bob gets green. He gets 5 minutes or 3 minutes. It depends on how big the stuff is. You don't want to do 5 minutes if there's a lot of stuff. It'd take forever. And then the adult children start tagging things. And then, then they box up their own stuff, or a company would do it. I mean, there's a plethora of ways you could do it. But you can get, if you're the only one, you might, and you're in charge of getting rid of the things, then take what you want and leave the rest for the estate sale company, and they can even pack it up and donate the rest for you and give you a tax write-off. Awesome. That's a lot of information, but it's a big project.
That is a big project for sure. So that was the only question that I saw come in. So our attendees, if you do have any questions, we'll go ahead and do a final call for those. I have a question for the Amazon product name for personal papers.
Okay, so if you're talking about, hopefully you're talking about this one, and this is, it can be personal, business, family, whatever. This one is a SMED product. I think it's less than $20, and it's the actual, here's the actual insert. You can see that there. It's like SMED. Mm-hmm. And it says it's a viewables, plural. And actually their website is viewables.com, but the same thing is on Amazon. So if you have a Prime account, it'd probably be cheaper doing it that way. And these are actually stickers that can be placed on the tabs right here, and you can name them. But this is really good for if you're really moving around a lot and you have papers that you need to take with you on the go, or you're traveling on a vacation. It's a great product to do that with and keep different things organized and separate.
Great. Okay, so we will leave it up a couple more minutes. We do thank you, Lorraine. We are super excited to have you out. We got to do, like I said, we got to do one presentation at Central Library before we all shut down. So we are super thankful for you for being willing to come out and present virtually. And if you guys missed the prior presentations from Lorraine, they are up on our YouTube channel. We do have one up there right now. She did do one on Tuesday for Mompreneur, and that will be up shortly, and then this one will be posted as well. So if you want to share that with them, just give us a couple weeks to get it edited and uploaded, and you'll be able to share this with your siblings or any children or anything like that. We'd love to just help spread the word. So I don't see more questions coming in, so we will go ahead and wrap up. Thank you again, Lorraine.
Thank you,
and thank you for all of our attendees today. We hope to see you again in another Fort Worth Library program in the future. Feel free to reach out to us with any kind of program ideas that you have that you would like to see from us. We'd love to get that out to you. So thank you guys so much. Have a great week and stay safe.
Okay, bye.